watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. The Israeli army bars Palestinians from the West Bank and the Gaza Strip from entering Israel until Sunday. After 4 years of siege, desperately needed food aid reaches the Syrian opposition-held war-devastated Damascus suburb of Daraya. And US-backed forces seized control of the last route into Daesh group-held city of Manbij in northern Syria, completing militants' encirclement. Those were the headlines, and now for the news in detail. The Israeli army said today that it was temporarily barring Palestinians from the West Bank and the Gaza Strip from entering Israel, stepping up already tough restrictions announced after a Palestinian gunman shot dead 4 Israelis in Tel Aviv. The closure would remain in force until midnight Sunday. About 10,000 Palestinians were nevertheless allowed into Jerusalem for Muslim prayers on the first Friday of Ramadan at the Al-Aqsa Mosque complex. The worshippers would have to return home after Friday prayers. Palestinian admission for males was restricted to those over 45 years of age. Among the measures, the government said it was revoking entry permits for more than 80,000 Palestinians to visit relatives in Israel during Ramadan. It also revoked work permits of 204 of the attackers' relatives. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that Moscow is ready to host another round of inter-Palestinian talks. Lavrov spoke in the Russian capital after a meeting with his Palestinian counterpart, Riyad al-Maliki. Meanwhile, Lavrov expressed his country's preparedness to contribute in resuming direct negotiations between Palestinians and Israelis within the context of international quartet efforts, which comprises the European Union, Russia, the United States of America, and the United Nations. In a press conference held in Moscow, Lavrov added that his country enjoys good, trusting relations with the Palestinians and the Israelis, and it is prepared to activate its role for the talks to start. An international aid convoy delivered desperately needed food aid to the opposition-held war-devastated Damascus suburb of Daraya for the first time in nearly 4 years. But opposition activists said distribution of the aid was held up, aimed heavy bombardment from the air by government forces today. The suburb, just southwest of the Syrian capital, has been under siege by government forces since November 2012. Severe cases of malnutrition have been reported among its few thousand residents due to severe shortages of food and medicine. The delivery of food supplies last night by the Syrian Arab Red Crescent and the United Nations came hours after the UN said the Syrian government had approved access to 15 of the 19 besieged areas within Syria. Last week, a joint convoy of the UN, the International Committee of the Red Cross, and the SARC reached Daraya and delivered medicines, vaccines, baby formula, and nutritional items for children, but no food. The UN estimates that there are currently 592,700 people living under siege in Syria. US-backed forces seized control of the last route into Daesh group-held city of Manbij in northern Syria today, completing their encirclement of the main target into a major advance against the militants. The Syria Democratic Forces, supported by US-led airstrikes and America's Special Forces, launched an advance last week to siege Daesh's last territory on the Syria-Turkey border and cut the self-declared caliphate off from the world. Other enemies of Daesh, including the government of Syria and Iraq, also launched major offensives on other fronts in what amounts to the most sustained pressure on the militants since they proclaimed their caliphate in 2014. A second ship equipped with specialist search devices will join the hunt for the black box flight recorders and the wreckage of an Egyptian air jet today, the head of France Air's Accident Investigation Agency said. A French naval supply vessel picked up a signal from one of 2 recorders on June 1st, and Egypt has chartered a second vessel operated by Mauritius-based Deep Ocean Search, equipped with sonar equipment and an underwater vehicle. United States President Barack Obama announced his support to the Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton to contest the American presidential elections. It came after a meeting held between Obama and the Democratic candidate Bernie Sanders at the White House, stressing his participation in the election campaign in Wisconsin next week. It is worth mentioning that Hillary Clinton was the foreign minister during Obama's first presidential term. Still to come in our news bulletin. Iraqi families enjoy the spiritual aspects of the holy month of Ramadan, even though they have adverse living conditions. Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. Bells rang in celebration from St. Paul's Cathedral in London today to mark the start of the official celebration of Queen Elizabeth II's 90th birthday. The Queen's milestone birthday is being marked with a 3-day series of festivities that will include solemn religious events and street parties in many towns and cities. The celebration has been a lengthy affair, starting with her real birthday in April. The monarch's official birthday is traditionally celebrated in June, when Britain's weather can be more favourable. Elizabeth and her husband, Prince Philip, attended a service of Thanksgiving at St. Paul's today, on what is Paul's 95th birthday. Oman oil price August delivery decreased today by 84 cents as to reach $48.06. Global oil prices retreated after achieving its big levels during the year after the increase of US dollar. Brent crude also fell by 1% as to reach $51.45 per barrel. US crude shred 57 cents to $49.99 a barrel. France vowed drastic measures to prevent strikes disrupting the smooth running of Euro 2016, as Europe's showcase football event kicks off today, also overshadowed by terror fears. The football extravaganza comes after months of seemingly endless woes in the country, which have been plagued by terror attacks, floods, political turmoil and strikes, as train drivers vowed to disrupt services to the stadium for the opening game. President François Hollande said he would take all necessary measures to ensure the championships go off without a hitch. Up to 90,000 police and private security guards will protect players and supporters at the tournament. The massive security operation got its first real test yesterday when French DJ David Guetta performed in the fan zone at the foot of the Eiffel Tower. Some 80,000 spectators had to pass through 2 checkpoints and stringent security searches. World leaders, celebrities, boxing fans, and people who admired Muhammad Ali as a man gathered today in Kentucky hometown for one last goodbye to a towering global figure who died a week ago at the age of 74. Mourners lined the streets of Louisville for a funeral procession that will take Ali's body to Cave Hill National Cemetery for a private burial. Thousands of people will then fill the KFC Yum Center for a memorial featuring eulogies by former U.S. President Bill Clinton and comedian Billy Crystal. Jordan's King Abdullah was to be among the dignitaries, but Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan, who attended a Muslim funeral for Ali yesterday, cut short his visit to Louisville. Pallbearers included actor Will Smith, who earned an Oscar nomination for playing the title role in the 2001 film Ali, and former heavyweight champ Lennox Lewis. Despite the difficult security situation they are living in, Iraqi families are enjoying the spiritual aspects of the holy month of Ramadan. Houses were decorated in Iraqi cities for the advent of the holy month. Family members gather in houses to break the fasting, families visit each other, and Iraqi cuisine is famous of delicious dishes that are served during the holy month of Ramadan. Families start preparing for the meal very early with the participation of all female members of the family. There are some traditional sweets that are made especially during Ramadan, such as baklawa, and drinks such as dry lemon and raisin juices. There are also some traditional customs in some popular districts of the Iraqi capital Baghdad, such as al-Masaharati. Ramadan times for tomorrow: Fajr prayers 3:52 a.m., Maghrib prayers 6:58 p.m. Now for the general weather forecast around the Sultanate. Clear to partly cloudy skies will prevail over the coastal areas of the Governorate of Dhofar. The rest of the Sultanate will have clear skies with chances of clouds over the Hajar Mountains. Low clouds late at night and early morning are expected along the coasts of the Arabian Sea and the Governorates of South Sharqiya. Winds will be northeasterly light to moderate over the coastal areas of the Sea of Oman, while it will be southerly to southwesterly light to moderate over the coastal areas of the Arabian Sea. The rest of the governorates will be southerly to southeasterly light to moderate. Seas will be slight to moderate along the coastal areas of the Sea of Oman and the governorates of Musandam, with a maximum wave height of 1.5 meters, while along the coastal areas of the Arabian Sea it will be rough with a maximum wave height of 3 meters. This is the Sultanate of Oman television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The Israeli army bars Palestinians from the West Bank and the Gaza Strip from entering Israel until Sunday. After 4 years of siege, desperately needed food aid reaches the Syrian opposition-held, war-devastated Damascus suburb of Daraya. And US-backed forces seized control of the last route into Daesh group-held city of Manbij in northern Syria, completing militants' encirclement. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsrooms and the studio, it's good night.